Hello and welcome to episode 426 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the comic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And a man who goes by many names. We don't know all of them, we just know him as Tony Esmond.
All right.
All right.
We've been very excited this week. We've just finished a very exciting interview, haven't we? So we're still buzzing.
We've just been we're high on comics and comic talk, and there's lots to look forward to this
and
week.
Gonads.
And gonads as well. Yeah, there's lots of that. No, well, there's not lots of that, but there's lots of comic talk and a lot of fun, and possibly a quiz and maybe a
it's a nice little prize. Oh
yeah. But do you know what is a prize for us every week, guys?
Comic House.
It's Comic House, our lovely sponsors. The indie comic marketplace that loves indie comics as much as we do and as much as you do. I mean, if you listen to this show, there's a good chance that you like indie comics in there, really. And you want to find out more about making comics and, and you probably make comics yourself, don't you, really? And if you make comics yourself, you just think, well, where can I go? Where's another avenue to
where can I get people to see them?
Yeah. Then just add them to Comic House. There's a huge selection of titles on their database. Like I say, you can list your book on there. It's another way to get your work out in the world, as well as the digital app. It's basically on Netflix for comics, only £3 a month. And you get access to an enormous library of digital indie comics that's being added to all the time. Dan, do you currently know what's on there?
No, I don't have the list up in front of me.
He is
prepared
today. The weird thing is,
he's giddy like a schoolgirl.
Sometimes he is so prepared that I'm unprepared for how prepared he is. And then when I think he's got this, you let me down. I'm only joking, Dan. You never let me down.
Oh,
you got it up now, haven't you?
And yes, got Contracts, Zero, The Long Game Issue 1, Viper Crimson Dawn, Phantoms of the Lake, and Fractures Volume 1. And all this and more on Comic House.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there from past guests and no doubt future guests. There's loads of great comics on there from us and from just brilliant creators from all over the world. And there's a 14-day free trial. So if you want to find out more about it and to dive headfirst into the world of small press that we talk about every week, go to comichouse.com. We're not going to fuck about this week because
straight to it.
We were very pleased to be joined by a couple of guests that, I'll be frankly honest, I didn't expect us to be talking to.
It was a bit of a hit and hope, wasn't it, with that one?
Yeah.
You messaged out thinking, we can but try, lads.
Yeah,
it was a bit of that, wasn't it?
Yeah. But you lovely people out there may have heard us talking about, I don't know, a little comics institution called VIZ. We even did a quiz about it. And we've had a lot of laughs and we've talked about it. And
Profanosaurus.
And this week we are joined. We have an interview with two of the creators, Drury and Simon Thorp. And
what nice guys! How funny are they?
Yeah, absolute dudes.
Yeah.
Super nice guys, and you're going to find out loads of information about Viz, stories about certain strips, influences, all kinds of the publishing journey it's had. But for those of you out there, we wanted to
the orgies they didn't go to.
Yes. There's a bit of orgy talk. No, there isn't. There's only one.
Tiny bit.
Yeah, Tony tries to make things uncomfortable as he always does, and these are the guests that roll with
I'm
it.
always comfortable at an orgy.
Yeah.
Orgy talk.
Yeah.
That's the second thing you said today that I said let's put on a t-shirt.
As soon as he walks into the room, he clocks the chair he's going to sit on and thinks, I'm going to sit there now before the lights go off.
You've got to be careful with sitting anywhere in an orgy.
That's why you got to pick your seat first, isn't that right, Tony?
Exactly. So speaks a man with experience there, I can tell you that now, Vince.
Oh, dear. But there may be some of our listeners who, although that have...
I think the US people, I'm guessing, probably don't know.
Yeah. You know, Viz for some may be like the manga-based website and imprint of comics, but that's not what we talk about. Because we're talking about like the satirical comedy comic that has been
the British institution, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it started in 1979.
Bloody hell!
Isn't that incredible? Yeah. I mean, we talk about it in the interview, but there's things that are used and phrases, words, characters used in that comic that people will repeat now that they don't know of.
Unaware of the origin of where it's come from.
Just it's actually in the sort of lexicon, isn't it, now, of language, some of the stuff.
Yeah. There's so
it's also hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious, it's satirical. But as all, there's a real, I don't know, there's a certain underground nature to it, and it is both a bit of a legend in the UK comic scene and the UK comic scene best kept secret in some ways.
In a way, you don't see in comic shops very often.
No.
It's to me, it's like they've turned funny piss taking into a publishing empire. Yeah, they've turned the jokes that the three of us would make in a pub to each other in a comic, and they've translated to like an everyman kind of comic.
It's weird. It's one of those ones. It's kind of hardly anyone in my circles talks about it or reads it, but like we've been banging that drum for fucking ages about Viz.
Yeah, but if, like we say in the interview there, if you say Fanar, if you say Viz, people will know, won't they? Yes. Well, it's selling like millions a year at one point in the 90s. It's 4 or 5 TV series. It's had a movie.
Yeah,
music singles. They've been on top talk shows like Jonathan Ross, stuff like that.
And you hear all of these sort of things, and you think, publishing empire, like big offices, etc. And it's just people that like making these funny comics together, like a small.
And the thing I like about
team.
them is, one, they don't care, and two, they take the piss out of everyone.
Yeah,
everyone's a target.
Yeah.
I think I heard a quote from one of them in an interview recently that said, "Comedy can't be righteous," and I kind of make him right on that, man.
I think there's a definite difference with comedy as well. Even when it seems like crude or like a certain sort of humor like that, you can tell when it's created by intelligent, thoughtful people. Even if they say, "Oh yeah, we're just making a joke about arses," that's you can tell when an intelligent person has made that joke compared to the people that are like, oh, "This is funny.
Look at that arse." Yeah. I think there's so much that is influenced by. I mean, Little Britain just immediately springs to mind.
Yeah.
There's so much that is influenced it. I'd actually include us in that. That a lot of what we do on here is pure old but satire as well.
I'd agree. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
A lot of my humor
hugely influenced by them
from Viz.
Yeah.
So we want to let you know. Definitely, if you haven't heard of it, I mean, you've probably thought, what on earth are they talking about? Seek it out.
Go to viz.co.uk and it's £3 for the first 3 issues.
Yeah.
It's cheap as chips, and then after that, it's only $3.95 or something for something that's like a big old read.
Yeah. And also, it seems like they're very open about like getting in. They want to get into comic book shops. They want to hear from creators. They want they are not sort of, we're in a publishing house doing our own thing. The outside world is there. They are. I mean, you'll hear it for yourself, because we had amazing fun talking to them. This may not be
before and after the interview as well.
Yeah, totally. And so should we just get into it straight away? There's too much gold. There's too much gold here. So here is our special interview with Graham Drury and Simon Thorp doing their first ever podcast interview. Yes, it's time to talk Viz. Okay, as you know, we've been talking about the UK comic Viz more and more over the past few months, haven't we, gents?
Yeah, I'd say even a couple of years, to be fair.
Yeah.
Banging that Viz drum.
We had a Viz quiz recently, didn't we?
We did.
Good. Yeah.
But we thought, rather than just us rambling on about it, why not we speak to the people themselves? So we're very pleased to be joined by 2 of the creative minds behind Viz itself. Welcome to the show, Graham Drury and Simon Thorp. Welcome, gents.
Hello there. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
It's very exciting. We understand we might be your first podcast.
Yes, you popped down podcast cherry.
There's something very special going on here, I think, now.
The start of something good. Yeah, it is. We've never done a podcast before.
We don't actually know what a podcast is.
There? Have I just said the first lie on this podcast?
I won't worry about that. We've had 400 plus episodes.
We lie all the time.
Nothing but
lies. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
I lie to my wife a lot.
And you lie to other people about your wife. Anyway,
I tell people she's died because it cheers me up.
Circle. Yeah.
That's going to come back to bite you one day, Tony. Anyway, so start us off, gents. Viz has been a comics institution in the UK for many years, which is quite a feat in any realm of comics. How did you, to start us off, just how did you both get involved with it, and what is it about Viz that keeps you sort of keep coming back and creatively inspired?
Well, Graham, do you want to start? Because you were before me.
Yeah, I was a research scientist at Leicester University. I was working in the plant genetics lab.
I thought that was a wind-up in that documentary.
No, that's
true, is it?
I'd studied botany at Nottingham University, and then I started a PhD at Leicester University, and I was just drawing cartoons to sort of keep me sane. And I was working on drought-resistant drought tolerance in plants. So I was on track to solve world hunger problem, but then this chance to work for Viz came up, and what could you do?
Yeah. Give that the elbow.
I was just drawing cartoons in my spare time, sending them up to Chris, who was the editor at the time, and then after I've been doing this for 2 or 3 years, and he says, "Look, we were just producing a comic, or Chris was just producing a comic when he had enough stuff to put one out. Then he got this proper publishing deal with John Brown, and he says, look, we've got to do this properly now. We've got deadlines. Do you fancy throwing away a glittering career in science and drawing arse jokes for a living?" And I said, yeah.
No brainer.
Because I saw a documentary, we've all watched it, that sort of spoof 1990s documentary, which has got you in your greenhouse talking about your favourite plants.
That's right, yeah.
And I think, Simon, it's got you talking about how you bought a bus. Is that right?
No, that's not true. That never happened. I did a few years ago. I went through a bizarre sort of midlife crisis, and I bought a Triumph Renown, like 1956. A car, a terrible thing, and I thought that's nice, and I drove it round a few times, but the brakes were so terrible that I got rid of it very quickly.
You didn't buy a Daimler bus.
I've got my wife's best friend, her husband, he's got like a racing car, and I bought a Triumph Renown. But anyway, never mind.
So how did you get into it, Simon?
I was at university in Wales. I was doing fine art at university in Aberystwyth, and I saw an advert in the back of Private Eye, and it said, I think the exact words were something like "Big Magazine." No, what was it? Funny cartoons, like Big Magazine or something. Bum rates paid or something. So I thought, well, they'd sound desperate, so I'll answer to that. During my first year at university, my first term at university, I sold a cartoon to Punch.
Right,
okay. Sold like to a proper magazine was to Punch, but and then so I replied to that, and Chris started taking cartoons, and then by the time I'd finished at university with my hugely valuable degree, Chris was requiring, I was drawing for Oink as well, and then Chris was taking people on, so he took me on. I think was it like an issue later than Graham or something like that? Anyway, like it was a full-time job, so I came up to Newcastle.
So what strips were you doing, Simon, for those that don't know?
I think Phil quite early. I mean, they were sort of one-offs, really. I don't really like to think about them that much, the early ones that I did.
Your first gig was Billy the Fish, wasn't it? A regular one, sort of taking over established characters.
That was quite early, yes. I did a Billy the Fish, and then continued doing Billy the Fish for a long time. I haven't done a Billy the Fish for ages, actually.
No.
Done one.
So Billy the Fish was in Fulchester, wasn't he? A lot of these characters are based in Fulchester.
Fulchester.
Was that one of you two idea? Was it? Because it's an actual town from
reoccurring.
Yeah, it's a town from a BBC series.
It doesn't exist. We nicked it from Crown Court. Do you remember Crown Court in the 70s?
Yeah, they were repeating it, aren't they? I think
on ITV. It was like this lunchtime courtroom drama program. It was fantastic, where they had members of the public making up the jury, and they'd go through the process. But all the things happened in Fulchester, this fictitious town called Fulchester. And with a year like that, nobody will remember that.
Yeah, because Fulchester would have a beach and an airport and
a range of mountains, and anything they needed, it would have. It was great.
Yeah,
because isn't there a spoof articles written by like the mayor of Fulchester, and he says, oh, this is coming along, bring it on, we're ready. It's sort of like the apocalypse.
We've got two mayors, haven't we? There's the tourist bloke at Tipton, Hugo Guthrie, the tourist man. And then there's the mayor of Blackpool, I think.
Oh, it's Blackpool, yes.
And we always use this photo. When we were in London at some book thing or something, and the bloke came up to us, and he was like a town crier, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
But like the London town crier, and he said, "Hello." We took a picture of him. He must be dead now. And he's the picture that we use as the mayor of Blackpool.
Yeah,
sort of grinning bloke in a tricorn hat.
Yeah,
it's like the recurring picture you use of that bloke kissing the girl's bum.
The bird's
it
ass.
seems to be in almost every issue. Yeah, it makes me laugh. Yeah.
Well, we don't know. I honestly can't remember where that came from or what issue it was in first. It was years and years ago, or what the first context we used it in. But it makes us laugh, and 40 years later, it's still making us laugh. So
is that what keeps you coming back? Is it like and creating all these ideas because it's just keeps you entertained, just keeps you amused?
Yeah, I think the thing about Viz is it was and still is. It's hard to sort of pigeonhole because what we do is if we think of something funny, we'll then think of a way of doing that joke, and it might be a feature or a cartoon or a spoof ad or a look and learn type thing, and we're always trying to think of new ways to sell the same joke to the readers over and over again. I'm not sure we're succeeding, but
what I like about
it's like your mum serving up the rehashed leavings from the last meal. It's just over and over for 40 years.
You have characters that can like speak and parody like stuff that goes on. Say if like a TV presenter goes off the rails or something, you got Roger Melly there to kind of use that as a proxy character to explore that. And there's several of them, and there's always a story in the news that
Millie Tant is one I was thinking about today. Is very similar. She's got to be gold at the moment, isn't she? Millie Tant, I'm guessing.
Very often though. It's
I've done
there was one in the last issue.
Yeah,
was the one in the last issue. Yeah.
But you're right. The sort of characters that you can hang things on. There's like if there's something happens in football, we'll do that story for Billy the Fish, and on television we'll do it for Roger Melly. And we used to do. Me and Thorpe did a cartoon for a magazine called GPX, which was this Grand Prix magazine. It was dead good, and we did this cartoon sort of set in the world of Formula One. And we thought it was dead good. It was all it was a bit like Billy the Fish, but in Formula One.
Yeah.
The events and the whole magazine was really good. It was quite funny, but they ended up canning it. They ended after about 5 issues because Formula One fans don't like to laugh about Formula One. It's a very serious business. There's nothing funny about Formula One. Very quickly found.
I mean, I suppose that's a big point of what
on the magazine.
Yeah, I suppose that's a big point we were going to get around to is how do you deal with people who like kind of turn their nose up and don't understand the humour? I mean, we have
especially
probably
satire is definitely something that's
we've spent 30 and sort of a little bit of toilet humour. Let's be honest, we've spent 30 years laughing at your comic, but some people just don't get it, do they? Do you know what I mean? Like my missus got no sense of humour at all. She wouldn't get it at all. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So.
I mean, we would just ignore those people. I mean, they people who don't read it, and we just
fair enough.
Yeah, we went when we went to America. We went to a convention in America with big ideas about breaking America. We were going to break America. We were, and we gave this talk about Viz and this bloke who was the president of the American Cartoonists Association. He's actually English. A bloke called Steve McGarry, and he went to California a few years ago, and he lives out there now, and he's the president of the National Cartoonists Association. He says, Don't be self-deprecating. He says they won't get it if you're self-deprecating. Go out there and tell them how great Viz is. But it's not what we do. We're harshest critics. We say how shit Viz is before so anybody else can. We beat them to it. And so we gave this talk that was very sort of self-deprecating, and it just went straight over their heads, didn't it? Thought it was.
It didn't go down a storm, did it? Really?
Was that it? Yeah. That was right.
I think the Simpsons had been on, hadn't they? I think earlier. Was it earlier that day? They were all the Simpsons people were at the front.
Right.
At the back, but we didn't go down as far as them.
It's a lovely venue, though, isn't it?
It's a lovely venue. It's a terrific venue.
Going down by the beach every day. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's got a very kind of UK British voice, Viz, and I imagine some might struggle to get references in it. But there's the humour throughout. If you've got kind of like a bit of a dark sense of humour, I think it's going to appeal. You were saying, Tony, that not many people in the US kind of have heard of it.
I've got some friends out there who I regularly buy the annual for every year. And I always meet up with them at a convention out in New York. And one of the three of these guys who are like podcasts like us, they're kind of us, but America. Only one of them gets it. He says he sits on the couch in their hotel room giggling, and the other two just can't get it. It just doesn't penetrate their brain. Do you know what I mean?
Humour's very strange though throughout the world, though, isn't it? I think like for me, when it comes to like certainly the British humour, I see it more internationally in things like from New Zealand or Australia. There seems to be a certain level of wit that feels very British.
Yeah, Australia gets it. I've heard you say that, guys, before. Is that right?
They did John Brown, the publisher, many years ago. He did a sort of an Australian version, and he had a bloke in Australia who was called Peter Ching, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Who sort of remixed it really for an Australian thing, and they printed a special one, didn't they, for a while?
It did, yeah, because it was
a funny shape and things, and it had
it's a different shape. But yeah, he did that. He sort of take out references to British celebrities that the Australians wouldn't know, and he'd stick the Australian equivalent in. And it worked, but as sales went down, here as well as in Australia, it became sort of more cost effective to just print it here and ship them over.
They did the same with Mad magazine, didn't they? So Mad.
There was like a British version, wasn't there, where they would write.
Yeah, they'd have like an EastEnders story or something in it. Yeah,
that's right. Or you'd be reading something, and then suddenly somebody's name will be in a completely different type.
The
rest where they just stuck it over the balloon like that.
So what have you been drawing over the years, Graham? Any sort of who you? Cause I know every time I see you talk about art, you always go, "I like drawing the fat slags because I like doing the rounded bits."
That's you scuppered, Graham.
I'll just fire that question straight back at you. Which ones do I like drawing? I mean, Spoiled Bastard. I like drawing Spoiled Bastard, and Roger Melly. I mean, all the ones I do, I enjoy drawing them. There's none of the cartoons I draw that I don't enjoy drawing. Some are a bit more of a chore than others because they're more detailed and what have you. But no, I mean, I just enjoy drawing any of the ones I do.
What was that one you did that was like the Keystone Cops, where they were all driving around in a bus, falling out the back? Policemen.
Oh, that was it the silent one, the one where it had like the Well, that wasn't very good. What are you bringing that up for?
I liked that one.
It was called
that was the one I liked.
Oh, was it? In that case, it was called Prime Suspect with the Keystone Cops.
Right.
And it was like an episode of Prime Suspects, I think.
Yeah. He's been waiting to say that for ages. You've ruined it. He did it live on air and it's gone badly.
I put it just with Thorpe early today. He says, ask that question. Ask about Prime Suspect.
I was reading the one you crossed over Fat Slags with Star Trek earlier today. I think it was like a 2017 one. That was a good one, man. I like that one. Yeah.
You like that?
About the Gorn having a small knob. That was funny.
I like doing them in sort of different, either different, eras or in different situations. There was milieux. That's the word. Milieux. I did one as Pride and Prejudice once, which I enjoyed drawing.
I think it's called Slag Trek, which is just brilliant, man. That's all I want.
Clever, isn't it?
That's all I want from a comic.
We were thinking well and truly inside the box on that day.
I did mention about the letters, and I was kind of wondering about the percentage of how many are made up and how they're written. And you were saying, Graham, that actually a lot of them, most of them, are actually people writing in, which I was kind of like, okay, they're really funny.
Our reels are probably funnier than me these days. It used to be a lot more. We used to make about 50%, but I reckon we only make 20% of these days. We often alter a lot of the ones that get sent in. We don't print them as they are. We'll change them for grammar and sort of. Often we have to chuck them down. But if you look, there's although we get hundreds of letters each issue, if you look at the names it's sort of 20, 30 people that regularly write good ones. But then there's always, somebody new just writes something and that's really good.
Yeah.
And we'll stick it in.
Written in crayon.
Yeah. Is there any particular ones that have been sent in where you read it and just think, that's funny, but we can't print it?
We're going to get in big shit for that one. Yeah.
Without saying what it is, has there ever been a case like that?
Oh yeah, there will have been ones, but I think there's this. If your first reaction to something is to laugh and then wince, then you might think about putting it in. If your first reaction is to wince and then laugh,
Jesus,
because people think that we like to shock our readers, and we don't, because they don't want to be shocked. They want to be made to laugh, and if you shock them all the time, they're just going to get fed up with it. Because if you make them laugh all the time, they're just going to want more.
I do like.
Go on, mate. Sorry.
In the letters when people have a conversation over letters, and there was one when Anne Widdecombe had presented a program about prostitution, and someone was saying how much they'll be willing to pay for unprotected anal intercourse with Anne Widdecombe. He goes, I'll probably go up to 50 quid. And then 2 letters later, thinking about it, I'd probably dropped to 40.
I head off to the cash point.
I can't remember that one. I've obviously lots of that one.
Blocked that one out. Yeah, wisely. It's got Anne Widdecombe and anal sex in it.
He's speaking from experience here, isn't he?
Are you sure that was in Viz? That was definitely.
I think that's
the Guardian.
Hand on heart. That's.
He sent it. No.
With someone like Roger Melly, did you ever get any feedback from somebody? Let's say somebody like Terry Wogan, at all, or
it was actually Roger Melly was actually based on a bloke. What was he called? Was it Griffith? Rod Griffiths, was it?
Rod Griffiths.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rod Scott was your mate. Yeah.
It was a anchorman at Tynion television, and Chris went into the canteen one day and heard this very familiar voice swearing and effing and jeffing. And I thought, oh, that'd be a good character. So it was based on Rod Griffiths. I think after a few years, they told Rod Griffiths it was based on him. But no, so we certainly didn't hear from Terry Wogan. Chris was on Wogan once, wasn't he?
Do you remember at the end of the Wogan that Chris was on? He'd drawn a picture of Terry, he was drawing a cartoon, or they had him draw a cartoon of Terry Wogan, and he'd sort of already produced this cartoon, and he'd drawn the wig flying off his head at a height, and they'd said to him, "You have to change that," and so he Tipp-X'd out the where the wig was flying off and drawn it again underneath, but you could clearly see the Tipp-X where being done. It was
just redraw it.
Blatant.
Yeah.
There has been a wig joke here that has been removed.
I told him that he couldn't draw Terry in a wig because he
doesn't wear a wig, does he? Sure.
Yeah.
But have you had much feedback from any other celebrities? Have you sort of lampooned, and how's it gone down? I know Cheggers was famously in that spoof documentary, which made us all laugh.
That I don't think that was a cartoon, was it? That was an article, I think. A very early issue, I think.
Just in sort of general terms, have you ever heard back? I know in the 90s you guys were probably a lot of celebrity orgies and things like that. I mean, did you ever bump into anyone at the orgies or anything?
Bumping into them at an orgy.
It's dark, isn't it? Sometimes you never know.
Yeah. No, but not really, because we were never famous, and we never went down London. We've only ever, the comics famous, but we're not, and so nobody knows what's going on. It's but we occasionally get celebrities write to us. There's people we do a lot, we use a lot. Like Chris Packham loves the comic; he's another subscriber.
Oh, cool,
brilliant.
And he often gets in touch. And there's other celebrities. I think most celebrities who we sort of have a go at, just if it's sort of having a go at them, they'll just ignore us. But the celebrities we use, we put words into their mouth quite a lot, and a lot of them like.
I was just reading the mini driver Min's Pies, which was all about spies in MI5, and all she was giving advice on it. And then Miriam Stoppard was giving people advice on whether their husbands were really spies or they were just like lying about having an affair. That was quite a good one.
Because Sean Bean turns up in the photo strip, doesn't he?
Oh, he came round the office, didn't he?
That was the weirdest day, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I'm not
he
quite
was
sure
married to a Geordie actress, Melanie, not Melanie Griffiths. What was she called? Melanie
Sykes.
Thing.
Hill. No,
Did she do the Boddington advert? Was that the one?
No. She was in. God, what was it called? The Bread.
Oh, okay.
She was Aveline in Bread.
Oh, I know the lady. Yeah, I know you mean.
And,
Yeah.
I think, is she in Coronation Street now?
Right. Okay.
She was anyway, but she was married to him, and
Look at us appealing to the kids here. Look at this. It's going well.
well, that's our problem. All our references, it's all stuff from the 70s, and
Melanie
everybody
Hill. I
remembers
just
that
looked
he's
up
now
on
dead.
Google. Melanie Hill.
Well done, you. Yeah.
Well, I think that's just, it's like whenever you think of a joke, you go, oh, do you remember that film? And you mention it to someone younger and they go, never watched that. And you just, a little bit of you just dies inside.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, we're obviously big fans of Ever Decreasing Circles with Richard Bryce and Penelope Wilton. So anything that you can do around that. Yeah.
People go on about that. I never really
Didn't get that one.
Got that.
No. I'm a fan of.
I found Richard Bryars' character too annoying, I think.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I quite like The Other Half with Lorraine Chase and John Standing as well. That was another classic series.
Sir John Standing.
Is he Sir now, is he?
Sir?
Oh, nice.
No, I think he was. I think he's like an inherited baronet or something, isn't he?
Oh, he's in a
Wow.
sitcom with Lorraine Chase.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thorpe went to see a sitcom being filmed once. It was a pilot that never made it. It was all about a pier, wasn't it? And it was called
Pier,
It's Out Half a Mile.
It
There are
sticks
two
out half a mile.
Yeah, that was the name of the
there are
sitcom.
two. There's it sticks out half a mile, and then I think they must have got that's failed. So they got the same script and changed the name at the top, and it was called High and Dry, I think.
Really?
It had Bernard
Oh,
Cribbins in it, and they filmed it at Yorkshire Telly in Leeds, and it was dreadful. I mean, really rotten.
Honestly, at the start of this, I never thought it would go here.
Yeah.
No.
You know.
Bizarrely, it had been written by
Tell us at which point you regret asking us on.
it had been written by the two officers of It Ain't Half Hot Mum, Michael Knowles and whatever the old.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And they'd written it.
In terms of, I mean, Viz is like.
Let's move back off that.
Yeah, let's go back to top of the
no. In terms of like the references and stuff, there's a lot of topical stuff that happens with like celebrities that are in the current news and current events. How important is it for you guys, for the comic and the articles and everything, to sort of stay in some way tapped into what's happening?
I mean, do you go to the BBC News and think, right, that's fucking...
Or you're just watching repeats. You're
Yeah.
just watching repeats of The Good Life at your drawing board. Just...
I know what you mean. I mean, it's a bit difficult because all our readers are sort of a certain age. The sort of the demographic is sort of between 40 and 55. It's probably a bit older now.
Young
people. Yeah, probably younger than us. Anyway, I'm 60. So we've got to sort of I don't want to live in the past, but we've got to sort of make references that they'll know. But then again, it's 2022, and was it 2023? Yeah, 2023, and we want to, but then we don't want to be the kind of people that just stick in, a name of some, K-pop artist.
Yeah.
Put in fucking Lizzo or something, and it just jumps out, isn't it? Yeah.
The kids.
Yeah, Bucks Fizz, one of the modern groups.
Yeah, the group, like Bucks Fizz.
Lizzo could quite easily fit in with Tracy and Sandra.
Yeah, she could. We often joke about Lizzo on here. She makes us do things. It's not our fault.
It's only happened in the past couple of weeks, gents. This isn't. It's not a regular thing.
No.
She was on the Glastonbury, wasn't she?
That's it, playing a flute. I know you're a fan.
Oh, she's very good. Played the flute.
Yeah.
Banana Insight.
See,
have you seen that man on?
I thought we were on the tracks again, and we went.
Does one show off
again? No, it's not going to go. Yeah. So are you still? Would you say, because it's very Geordie centric, isn't it? What you do? I know, Simon. Are you from up that way?
Oh no, I'm from West Yorkshire.
Right, okay. So you're not in Jesmond still, is it?
No, we've not been in Jesmond for ages, have we?
We still live up here. I mean, I'm from Nottingham originally, and I say Thorpe is from West Yorkshire. I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, Yorkshireman. Yeah.
I'm just sat here
we're
judging
still up in the
else.
northeast. Thorpe lives in Northumberland, and I live on the coast in Newcastle. So we're still up here. But I don't know about a Geordie sense of humour. I mean, it's certainly a Geordie dialect.
Yeah, you have to read it sometimes in a dialect, don't you? Like Syntaxist and these sort of people. Yeah,
totally Syntaxist.
Obviously, because Chris and Simon, when they started it, were from it, and they sort of did it in their own dialect. But I don't know about a Geordie sense of humour. So probably a British sense of humour, but in a dialect. But
have you ever been asked to go on the TV series Geordie Shore at all, or?
Surprisingly, no. But I think I would.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd watch that.
I wouldn't go on Geordie Shore. Definitely. if the producers of it are listening to this, don't waste that email. I'm not going on.
Bobby Hagan's a big fan of the show.
And what are you doing listening to this? Anyway,
shouldn't you be out tashing on or whatever they do in that show?
What the fuck is tashing on? No, I'm not. No, why am I asking? Oh dear.
We just quickly, V. We very much enjoyed that 1990s documentary, which was a big spoof of the journalist whose main thing was to come in and give you some shit for being so rude in a comic, and then 3/4 of the way through he does a fart and you all become friends because he's just fucking genius. We really enjoyed that. Bit. And the four of you are sitting in. I think you're sitting in an office I think it's the Jesmond office. And at one point, there's a shot out the window, and you can see that there's a gold Ford Sierra parked outside. And I'm guessing that's one of your cars. So we discussed it earlier. Did you ever own a gold Ford Sierra?
No.
No.
I would assume at that point, if we would have had, because there was
limos,
Golfs, I think.
Oh, okay.
It was very dull, wasn't it? We all bought.
It was. We've never had the trappings of sort of pop stardom and things.
So Simon bought he bought a Mini Cooper, and then he bought another Mini Cooper and another one, and I think he ended up with 11 cars.
Fucking hell!
But he didn't have anywhere to keep them. So anybody he knew who had a garage, he says, "Can I stick one of my Mini Coopers in your garage?" And so he had 11 at one point.
I mean, people maybe don't know how massive Viz was. I mean, it was You and Loaded were kind of the two iconic magazines. I mean, I know people who say there's a mum I know who says Fanar, but she doesn't have a comprehension that it comes from Viz.
Right.
When in the 90s it was so massive. I mean,
massive.
Did you just sleep on beds of fivers and stuff like that? Was it like real madness or?
Chris.
No, go on, Thorpe.
Well, Chris had sort of the rights, didn't he? He sort of held on to the. He was the one who dealt with the finances from the publishers, and we were sort of employed by Chris.
I think you know what Thorpe is trying to say. Yeah.
You're like the Jack Kirby of Viz.
Yeah. How has the industry sort of like, because just in the past couple of years, the publishing industry in general has just changed massively. What's it been like for you, seeing like the steady rise and fall, and what are the reader rates like at the moment?
Our sort of sales are pretty.
They're steady now. I mean, if you look at a graph of our sales, it's like bacteria growing in a petri dish. It's sort of this slow start, and then suddenly they're growing like mad, and they reach a peak, and then they start to fall. Where they sort of poison their own agar jelly or whatever.
So you can't take the scientist out.
No, there it is.
You can take me out of the lab, but you can't take the lab out of me. And our sales in the sort of early 90s were, I think, one issue or two issues sold 1.25 million, which is like 1 in 50 people in the country was buying it, which is absolutely mad. And we knew that going fast. We didn't realise it would fall so quickly, as it from great heights. And so it fell pretty quickly, and we're all sort of thinking, oh shit, we're going to hit the ground in about 2002, 2003. But around about 2000, it just steadied out, and it's been pretty much the same now for the last 15, 20 years. We've had very, very similar sales things.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the advertising's gone through the floor because, as you'll all know, you can't sell adverts in sort of paper magazines these days. The arse is full now to print advertising, and we've always been a difficult thing to sell adverts in. Very, with nobody with any reputation has wanted to sort of advertise in our comic simply because they don't know what their advert's going to be opposite.
It was bizarre thinking about it. You remember the Sega ads that used to run, and they were hand drawn by Viz, and like
we didn't draw them. Somebody else.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
They must have had somebody to draw them.
In your style. Yeah.
That was like, you think of the kind of the corporate world we live in now. Like the idea of someone doing that, a multinational doing that is insane. They would never do it.
It is.
There was an advert for the Nissan Micra, wasn't there? Where they drew it like a Buster Gonad testicle with all hairs sticking out of it as well.
But that was when we were selling 1.25 million, and they couldn't not advertise because somebody else would have. But as soon as sales start to drop, all the advertisers just fled, and there's just no advertisers out there now. And
that's our sort of the economic model that the publishers went with. Like a normal magazine, like a glossy magazine, they would make a lot of their money from advertising, or like the majority of the money that came in, or the advertising money would pay for the fancy production, and sort of newsstand sales wouldn't account for a lot of
you see some magazines and you get your 30 pages in before the magazine starts sometimes with
and we were always that our money was made from newsstand sales rather than advertising. So even if all the advertising had gone, the income wasn't that really affected very much, I don't think. I mean, possibly for the publisher it was, but not really.
The advertising was the icing on the publisher's cake, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We still don't get any of that. Well, 10% of the advertising money, but I don't know what it is now. It can't be much.
I mean, the thing is with your model as well, because a lot of the people we deal with on here have just a sort of comic shop, what they call the direct market comic shop model. But thing for you guys, I'd never see your stuff in a comic shop. I always see it in AA Smiths at the services, or the local news agent. That's the good thing about it. I think that's why it's kept steady to me.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it'd be nice to be in comic shops as well. I mean, there's certain places won't take it. I know a lot of there's certain
Waitrose. They won't.
Waitrose. That doesn't surprise me.
I don't think M&S sell it in their magazines. There's lots of places won't take it.
And why do you think that is, Graham? That's the question to be asked, I suppose, now, isn't it?
And crude.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
They've got reputations to think of.
I've got my potato dauphinoise and a magazine of arse jokes.
I've been in some news agents where they put it on the top shelf. Biz.
Yeah, it's in my local news agents on the top shelf, and AA Smiths.
And the annual, certain supermarkets take it, but they insist it's wrapped, so as nobody can sort of flick through it. Although we were pulled out of a supermarket a couple of years ago, weren't we, when somebody complained about what was on the back. It was it a Jimmy Savile plate or something, wasn't it? It was it's a plate of all these celebrities saying, "I never really knew Sir Jimmy." They had
the black marks over the eyes.
And this was on the back of an annual, and somebody complained, and
it was only one. I think
complained, and they whipped them all off the shelf.
One complaint, and that was it.
Yeah,
they're so worried these days, aren't they, about everything? Yeah. We get the odd letter on here. You'd be surprised to hear.
But if independent comic shops did want to stock it, how would they go about doing that? Because we've got there's a few independent comic book shops that actually play this show in their shop. What are you doing, you mad bastards? Is that something they have to go through a website or find? Is there a certain way to do that?
I would assume you just phone the publishers and ask
to stock it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure they'll. The publishers deal with fulfillment houses, I think, where you get distributors actually taking the publishers don't stick them in their car and drive them around the shop, but they'll certainly get in touch with the distributors and say, add these people on. If they just drop the publishers a line, if they want to stock it, and I'm sure
there's probably actually in the issue there's probably a number or something, isn't there, in the credits for
but there's
distribution.
You never know who from Viz is listening, folks, because we just sent the email out and didn't think we were going to get anywhere.
Yeah,
and now here we are talking about fat slags.
Fat slags in space.
If they definitely want an answer and they don't want to get lost, just send it to Angela at Viz. That's my wife, and she does all the admin, and she'll punt it on to the right people.
Awesome.
You're quite active on social media as well, guys, aren't you? You've got the Facebook page, which is very active. You got, we're always retweeting top tips and stuff like that goes out on Twitter, or X as it's called.
Yeah.
Is that something you sort of I mean, you don't seem to chase it, but it is a nice little presence, like a giggle. Yeah.
I remember them saying, like not that long ago, that on Facebook it said if you get whatever it was 50,000 followers on Facebook, that's that'll make you a living, sort of thing. And we've never made a penny from it. I don't know how many we've got, like 600,000 on Facebook and 300,000 on Twitter, and none of it has ever made a single penny.
Yeah. It's an odd thing. We a few years ago Thorpe started putting postings on the website and driving traffic to our website, and it went absolutely mad. We had like hundreds of thousands of visits to our website, but we couldn't sell adverts on it. Nobody would buy adverts on our website. And
somebody says that we were a toxic environment.
Yeah, it's got a toxic environment.
Leading toxic environment.
So we've given up trying to monetize Facebook and Twitter and our website, in fact, and we just
directed towards subscriptions. It's easy to subscribe. I mean, and you've got a great deal for subscriptions. It's only like £3 an issue, which these days, man, that's nothing.
That is nothing.
Yeah,
it's not bad, is it? It's all right.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, really good.
It's really good.
The thing is, I always think about Viz is if I sat in a really rough pub and read a Batman comic, I'd probably end up getting punched in the face. Yeah. But if I sat there and read a Viz, the maddest person in there would come over and go, I used to fucking love Viz, and he'd probably be my best mate for the rest of the night.
Yeah,
that's kind of where
you'd be the safest person in the pub.
Yeah.
Is that still
do you remember
going?
Buster Gonad? Yeah, you get a bit of that, I guess. Yeah, you probably will.
I'm just wondering whether that's an insult or a...
No, I think it's great, man. Yeah.
Compliment or an insult there. I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, it's a compliment.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
We had someone on our Slack group the other day. He said he'd never read it, and he's a fairly young guy, and he said he read it, and he says there's loads in there. He says, it takes you a while to read it. A normal 22-page superhero comic, if you want, is like probably pretty much £4.
Don't get me fucking started.
And we moan about it all the time, and it will take you like 7 minutes to read. But Viz is that's a long shit, isn't it?
With the articles and stuff, it's great.
Yeah.
We should have that as the strapline on
that. Long shit.
Long shit.
But it's the best thing to leave in the loo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it really is. Yeah.
That one, I think you printed a letter from the Her Majesty's Prison Service, and it said, we're not going to be able to take your magazine on. And it was like Viz, the magazine they can't give away in prison.
Yeah, somebody from the probationary service said, can you provide us with comics so that we can put in the waiting rooms of our office, wherever it was, so as people who are sort of visiting, I don't know if it's probationary, so it might have been the prison service. People who are visiting prisoners can read something while they're waiting to go inside. And so we said, yeah, why not? And we, for about 12 months, we sent them comics. And then we got a letter from them saying, please stop sending them. We can't make use of them anymore. And that's when we put that on the.
That's such a great tag.
Amazing.
It's just brilliant.
Amazing.
The thing
happened at a book sign the other year. This just going back a couple of things, because years and years ago when we did book signage, you get young people coming up wanting to buy it for themselves, and then a few years later they'd buy it and they say, oh, it's for me dad, and you think, all right, fair enough. And then a couple of years ago it started, they were buying it for their granddads, and we had somebody at a book signing last year who was buying it for somebody who was dead. They were buying it for their granddad who died the year before, and they bought him every year, and they just couldn't bear to not buy it for him.
That's a good model for you, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite sad, but money's money, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I say one character that seems to really kind of come into their own recent. Well, it's a new character. Is the Daily Mail.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. That's. I'm in a Viz group on Facebook, and there's a lot of them that love that because it's just absolutely keys into some of the.
Is he going about wanting to pull off those Stop Oil protesters? Going about wanting to pull them off. Oh, genius.
That's written. We don't actually write that. That's written by a bloke called Barney Farmer, who used to be a journalist, and I think he's sort of a full-time writer now. And he collaborates with Lee Healy, who draws that, the Drunken Bakers and
Yeah.
Robin's Robot, Kieran.
We're fans of the Drunken Bakers.
Drunken
We like that
Bakers.
they shit themselves all the time.
They're very much Marmites. They are. People love them.
All right.
Yeah. It's
What
kind
about
of just
you?
how much more degenerate that can they get,
Yeah.
and it's always the answer's always more.
There's one went out. We put one to press on last Friday, and wait till you see the Drunken Bakers in that.
Oh, good. That'll be through my door soon.
It's dark.
I mean, have you guys got favourites? Then perhaps ones that you don't yourselves make. Is there any favourites you've got?
No, all my favourites are mine.
Well, which ones are they then, Graham?
I like Spawny Get and I like Thermoso Flask.
Yeah. Everybody keeps on getting wanked off by prostitutes when he gets
Well, you
given.
can't help it. It's
You can't help it, yeah. He gets a tenner to go and get some shopping.
every time we do one, we'll get a few letters saying, "Yeah, I get it, but why is he dressed as a flask?" And I can't really explain why he's dressed as a flask. Really.
No need to, is there?
No.
No.
Verisimilitude. That's what you're doing.
Well, then things that
I mean, come to
you
think of
probably
it, that's
never
his
met.
name as well, isn't it? It's a nice name.
Parents should be cool, can't they? I mean, if you were called O Flask, you wouldn't name your kid Thermos, would you?
Make him wear a cup for a hat.
And a long tartan sort of.
What about you, Simon? You got any favourites? Or
No, I don't like any of it really. I would say Mrs. Brady. I think is probably
Yeah.
So I like to. I did Mrs. Brady last week, where she goes up in a hot air balloon, or her and Dolly go in a hot air balloon. That was good fun.
I like about Mrs. Brady is her face is she's gone a bit it's gone really extreme. All the sort of spikes and the hat and everything. It's just gone a bit crazy compared to what people used to remember it.
You can't draw from the side. Well, I tried, but you can't do it from the side. It doesn't make any sense. There's all stuff down the sides and then bits sticking out.
So, for context, for the listeners who haven't read, what is Mrs. Brady?
Well, it's sort of there's two of them really. There's Mrs. Brady, old lady, and she has a friend called Dolly Earnshaw, who and they go to the shops, they drink tea, and just chunter on. Really, it's like a.
Have you ever become attracted to them in any way, Simon?
Sorry.
Have you ever become attracted to them?
I've drawn them in compromising positions.
Yeah.
I think this is. Dolly
Did you draw from life, or
I think the question is, did you enjoy doing that?
Possibly more than I should have done. Yes. Yeah.
do you use life drawing?
I was about to say, is there reference?
I can remember one where they go to get some. They're not feeling well, so they go to get some drugs, and they think they've seen Dr. Chakraborty, but he's actually gone in to see like a drug dealer, and he's like, "What's your fucking game?" And he takes all their money, and he shoots them up with heroin, and they're sort of like,
I don't remember that one.
yeah.
I think you might have had a dream there.
No.
I think you possibly had.
I've almost got encyclopedic knowledge of this.
Especially the Brady one though is where they get a dog and it's called Two Girls One Pup, and it's as horrible as you can imagine. You felt quite sick drawing it, didn't you?
No, somebody said that they'd read it and been sick.
Hey.
Cartoon,
Really?
and that's like a terrible thing, but it's also rather wonderful.
No, the strap line.
That's a real badge of honour, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was 2 pages, and they were sort of falling in the dog foliage, and teeth were falling out and all sorts. That was a cracking piece of work. I thought that.
I always look at some of the titles of your kind of like often like one-off stories as well, and think just clearly you having a laugh making up a name. One I remember the other day was Max's Laxative Saxophone Taxi.
Brilliant.
What the fuck? Yeah. Come on, brilliant.
Well, our quiz,
Whitley Baywatch.
We actually did, which was Viz or Jizz. That's how mature we are on this show. We had to guess the real titles compared to the ones that were just a load, and it was quite a difficult quiz.
Really difficult. Yeah, Dan made it up, and we had a competition on here, Viz or Jizz. People liked that on the Slack group, didn't they?
Yeah.
They liked the title of that. Yeah.
Go on then. Go on. Try us out.
Let me see if I can dig it up.
Oh,
Yeah.
If we can't get it up, it's going to be bad, isn't it? I mean,
I mean, we're knocking on
Well,
there's
that's
a lot
true.
of things I can't remember these days.
Remember, we did a Mr. Logic once, and a couple of years ago, and it ended up where he was destitute, and he got a sign up saying, and it was effectively will work for food, but in his great big logical thing, whatever. And somebody wrote in and said, "Ooh, you did that punchline 25 years ago." And
Comic collectors, mate, they're all weird, aren't they?
I think the character Mr. Logic invites that kind of.
Oh, I love him. You had him on the "I'm a Celebrity" thing. It's just fucking genius. Someone rings him up as their lifeline. Yeah, love that. Yeah.
Do you want me to go through a couple of these Viz quiz?
Yeah, go on.
Oh my god! Yeah, go on.
You'll probably get.
So Viz or Jizz? You have to ask. It's Viz or it's Jizz.
Reverend Ramsden's Ringpiece Cathedral.
Oh, that's
Viz. Got that on my wall. It's on my wall.
I couldn't believe that one.
Arse Farm.
Yeah, that's Viz.
I think that's Viz, isn't it?
Yeah. Tracy's Turbo Tits.
No,
can't remember that.
Yeah. Vidal Baboon.
Who?
Vidal Baboon.
I think it was that one of
those.
Barney Farmers.
Yeah. 4 for 4 so far. Starling on the corner watching the girls go by.
No, but we'll have it.
Yeah,
That's a Viz.
Was that one of ours?
Yeah.
Oh god.
A strip about Joseph Stalin attempting to pick up women with a series of increasingly ridiculous chat lines. Most of the women are horrified, but when he finally meets one who's attracted to communist dictators, she goes home with Chairman Mao. Okay, next we've got Knobs Alive.
No.
don't ring any bells, that one.
No. I got Camberwick Greggs.
Yes.
Yes, that was Barney Farmer, I think.
Yeah.
Wayne King, Ranking Wonder.
I'm going to say no.
No. You're good. Outcome Stanley.
Yeah,
That's one,
And finally, the Scaffolders of Bastards.
Oh yeah, that was one of Davies.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
Yeah,
all of them right. Yeah.
The other thing we haven't mentioned is the Profanosaurus as well, which we love.
Yeah.
We often quote Profanosaurus probably 5 or 6 times in the last year on this show. But so did you want to explain to people who don't really know what that is, what it is, guys? Or
yeah, it's a swearing dictionary. I'll let Thorpe talk because he compiles a Profanosaurus. But
cool.
It started years ago when the publisher wanted to boost sales. They could see sales going down a bit, and he thought, we need to give something away on the comic. So he said to us, we need to give something away, but it's got to be fairly small so it doesn't cover too much of the comic. It's got to be flat, and it's got to be cheap to produce. And so we said, right, let's give away a slice of processed cheese. And he says, all right, then we will. And he looked into it, and apparently we couldn't do it because if we stapled a slice of processed cheese to the cover, we'd have to put the comic in the fridge.
Which would have been brilliant, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
It'd be bad for sales because people aren't going to look in a fridge for Viz. They're just not, And so we gave away this swearing dictionary, and we thought, do we know like 100 swear words, for a little sort of booklet? And we did. We got 100 swear words together.
I think I got mine from you guys at Huntington Beach. I think you gave it away, didn't you?
We had a sort of a printed one, didn't we? I've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were looking at some of them,
and it's people send in euphemisms and sweary things now.
I mean, I don't think a lot of them are used in actual real life, are they?
Parlance.
I like to think so. Was it bum carpet, luxuriant deep pile region of winnety hair cultivated around the gammon ring? That was one of my favourites.
One of my favourites was the noise, like when you've got diarrhea, and it was it sounds like Donald Duck being waterboarded by the CIA.
The other one I like was one I read today was screenshot, which is when you cough and fart at the same time. Like you have to press both buttons.
But I mean, it's bigger than. What is it? Is it bigger than Moby Dick now? Or something that words wise, it's enormous. It's
all right.
Yeah, but it's what those words are, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, a book isn't good because it's got lots of words in Thorpe.
It is.
I mean, there must be.
There's a good one. It's shit pump, which is the television, and we all refer to the television in our house now as the shit pump. Put the shit pump on.
We've got
a good word, isn't it, for a television?
Yeah,
the shit pump.
But the last time we had access to statistics, I think the Oxford English Dictionary had us as a citation, didn't they? For was it 30 different
4 words?
Wow.
Yes, the first usage of these words in the English language.
So get that.
Yeah.
But this has been full of little moments. You guys must have pinched yourself, like when you got the TV cartoons, and there's all sorts of things. There's been a movie about the Fat Slags. I know you don't particularly like that one, but
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of pinch me moments, aren't there, where you think, like, were you guys on Jonathan Ross?
Yeah, years ago. Yeah, well, me and Chris weren't we? Years, 100 years ago, whenever it was.
He almost tried to give you a bit of a hard time about it being so rude, didn't he, at one point? And you just sort of laughed it off. I watched it the other day. I found it on YouTube.
I can't remember. I probably haven't seen it since the day it was out. Was it live? Was it live, Thorpe?
It was live, wasn't it? It wasn't. What was he called? Was on.
Steve Naive was the band, but I can't remember who else was on.
Right.
Mr. Monge too, the bloke who ate things.
Yes, he was on.
Yeah.
And he had a 78 record, didn't he, or something as well? But, yeah.
And that was on the ship. That was on the ship pump, was it? Memorable TV on the ship pump.
In the late 80s, early 90s, yeah.
But the film, to get back to the subject of the film, that was John Brown, the publisher, and he lived next door to Ruby Wax, and it was Ruby Wax's husband who was going to direct the film, Ed Bye. And they had this script that had been written. What had he written? The bloke
he'd written Twins
with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Really?
Wow. Danny DeVito, and he'd written this film, and he says he's written this Fat Slags film. And we were saying, oh, this sounds like a terrible idea. And he says, well, they're just, what was it he said? They're just women looking for love.
He says, I know they eat and they drink and they're promiscuous. He says, but they're just like all of us. They're just looking for love. And we says, no, they're not.
Have you ever been to Newcastle? Yeah.
They're like the fucking Terminator. And he got it completely wrong. And
they had this script, and Ed Bye says, don't worry. He says, and he got the script, didn't he? And he put a line through it. He says, well, I'm not going to do that. Won't do that. And then they must have, they went away, and then they did it all, apparently. But we haven't seen it, have we? So, but it's got terrible reviews. So I'm assuming it's terrible. It's got Eamon Holmes in it, amongst other things.
Oh my
Mark
God.
Quality. Yeah.
Market quality.
I've described something as my Fat Slags moment because I started working in Cardiff about 3 or 4 years ago. My first day down there, I walked out of the hotel they put me up in and walked. This was like Friday afternoon, like 2:00, and walked to the building I was working in. And there was a rather large lady leaning against the hotel wall doing a wee, and it was like a waterfall coming down. And I still refer to that now as my Cardiff Fat Slags moment. Yeah, so it still gets used, isn't it? All these things, like Mrs. Brady, little old lady, you hear that quoted all the time. People don't know where it's from, do they?
Yeah. Viz is almost like it's a long-running comic that's also like it's a hidden gem. I mean, I know you talk about your readership being of a certain age, but it's also down to the fact that like lots of people aren't quite sure what it is, or they think it's a certain thing. But when they read it, like a lot of our listeners on the Slack and stuff, and they pick up and just think, this is fucking genius.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that's in it. I mean, what does the future for you guys? What do you think the future holds for Viz in terms of like what's coming next and getting new readers or keeping hold of the current ones?
Because you're doing the Lakes Festival, aren't you, as well soon?
Yeah.
The Lakes Festival. Getting new readers, that'd be great. I mean, that's obviously the key to it because our readers are dying.
Because you're not available digitally, are you? You can't read it digitally.
You can.
We don't know how, but it's available as a. But I think Amazon have stopped doing digital magazines or something. But our publishers will sell you one.
Like as a PDF sort of thing.
You get on Zinio. I think you get on Zinio, things like that.
Zinio, you can, yeah.
But I don't think we sell an awful lot of digital ones, but quite a few abroad. I think a lot of our abroad subscriptions are digital.
Yeah.
But as for we'll just keep doing it as long as we can. I don't know. It'd be nice to sort of get other people in to sort of and then we can step back very slowly and.
Because I know we talked about this before we was to press the record, but we've got a lot of listeners and pals of ours who are comic creators.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us on here make sort of quite humorous undergroundy kind of comics as well. If you're going to submit to you, have you got an open submissions policy, or how does it work?
Absolutely, yeah. Just send them to Angela at VIZ.
Right.
.co.uk, and then she'll get everything to me and Thorpe to look at. I mean, what we really want is people who can write and draw, because me and Thorpe write most of the stuff, and then we'll draw our own bits, and we'll send other scripts to other contributors to draw up. But then you've got people like Barney and Lee who write the Drunken Bakers and Mail Online, and they can write and draw, and that that's great, because then there's a couple of pages, 3 pages an issue that we don't have to worry about.
Davy Jones.
Davy Jones, another one who writes and draws. And we have got other cartoonists. I've not named them all, but so if there's cartoonists or writers, you don't have to both. It's good if you can.
You'd rather if it was either somebody who can do both, or a writer-artist team that submits to you, I guess.
Yeah,
you don't go looking for artists for writers, or vice versa.
No, but I don't want to put artists off from writing in, because if somebody could. We've had a few people who don't write their own stuff, but they can draw. And if it's a style that we like, and we can think of a joke that works with it, or a type of story, then we're always up for getting new people on board.
What about like the pro stuff, like the articles? Because like when I read the annual, like this, I one of the things I think when I stop laughing at like all the fake articles and stuff is there's a lot of work here. There's a lot of words. There's a lot that's being gone into.
Sort of journalism there in a way, isn't
it?
Yeah.
How does that process work? And like, do you have other writers come in to do those sort of things?
Yeah, we write a lot of it. Me and Thorpe write a lot of it ourselves. But again, it's like cartoonists. There are a lot of writers as well that do features. People who don't, and they'll very occasionally do scripts for our cartoons as well. But there's
Barney because he was a proper journalist, wasn't he, Barney? So
Barney was a former journalist. Barney, who writes the Mail Online and the Drunken Bakers, he was a journalist, and he's recently started writing articles, and he could do it because he's dead funny, and he knows how to write in a journalistic.
Yeah, there's that style to them, isn't there? There really is. Yeah, that punchy paragraph style. Yeah.
And another bloke, Tom Ellen, who lives in Greece now. He used to live in France, now he lives in Greece. And he's a journalist. He's a magazine journalist. And he's dead funny, and he can do it. And
he writes romance novels as well, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
He does. Genuinely does. Yeah.
Is it really you, Simon?
It's not.
No.
Okay.
I've met him. I have met Tom Ellen a few times. I can guarantee it's not
exist.
Different romance novels.
Yeah.
So because of people that haven't read it, a comic strip is a packed page. It's not like 4 panels on a page. Yeah. It's like 30 panels on a page, isn't it?
Yeah. Do we have the record for the most panels on a page, do you think?
Could be in the UK comics,
We go for 5 lines on a page and 4 or 5 frames per line. So
It's usually, my cartoons are usually between 20 and 25 on a page.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Are you both pen and ink? Have you moved to digital, or is it still original artwork?
No, I'm drawn on a Cintiq. We got.
Look at you.
Yeah. We actually got given Cintiqs, which was when we were in America.
Yes.
We met the bloke from Wackham.
Oh, they were there. They had a stand, didn't they, at that thing?
Yeah. I think they're at everyone. I think they go to every NCS convention thing. But they gave us Cintiqs and said, "Will you influence or really influence?"
So we
should probably do that now. 5. Buy Cintiqs.
There you go.
There you go. You've covered it. That's all right.
Yeah, that's might get sent another one now.
Is that like moving to like digital art and stuff? Has that completely like sped up the process for you?
Well, what it does is it means that in the olden days we bought a load of Gillot 303 nibs because we really liked those, and we assumed that they would stop making them because nobody would want them. So we thought we'll buy a lifetime supply. And so I can't remember how much it cost, but it was thousands of pounds. and we assumed that a lorry would pull up with a dumper truck to dump all these, and it was like a shoebox full of these nibs. And but we've still got plenty of those if anybody wants some. And,
Fiver.
But it's the fact that when you've drawn your cartoon with a nib, you've then got to rub out the pencil without smearing it all, and then you've got to scan it in and then clean it up because it doesn't scan nicely and everything.
And you guys are on a deadline, aren't you, as well?
You'd think it would speed the process up, but I think it sometimes slows it down because when you're drawing pen and ink, you do a line, and if it's not perfect, you think, well, I've got to wait for that to dry and then Tipex it out and then draw it in again. It's all right, and you'll leave it. Whereas on a Cintiq, you just do Apple Z and it disappears, and you draw it again, it's not right, Apple Z, and you can be Apple Zing like that till you get this thing right. Not only does it speed the thing up, it means every line on your drawing is as near perfect as it can get, and it sort of takes a top off of it. You if you like talking about this.
Yeah, perfect. But I think the other thing,
if you let me finish, and so I don't. You see, I've stopped doing Apple Z. I can only allow myself one Apple Z per line.
Per line,
it's perfectly clear.
Just say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I think, because if you look at the olden days and you look at cartoonists who draw with a pen and ink, and you're drawing like a frame that's whatever it is, 3 or 4 inches high. I think as you get older, you get less and less able to do it that small because your eyes are failing and your hands are failing and everything.
You need the toilet.
On a Cintiq, it's like you can draw it this big, and you can put big moves in. And you look at Ken Reed cartoons as he was getting old and ancient, and they're nowhere near as nice as the ones that he did earlier. And I think it's because it's too small and your hands are all cramped up and everything.
Yeah. I can only imagine him working for Viz.
I think if they can make a screen big enough, we'll be able to keep going.
We did have a bean artist, Brian Walker. Do you know Brian Walker?
Yeah, Brian Walker.
What did he do? He did This Boy for us. He did Smasher, didn't he? And he did some stuff for us.
So I always think about Viz that if it was sold in America, it would be like that sort of San Diego, San Francisco underground comic. It would be Robert Crumb and all these sort of guys. That would be how it would be marketed over there. Because it's got that edge, it's got that black and white aesthetic. An
underground feel.
Yeah, it feels like an underground comic if someone saw it in America. It's weird they didn't break through there like that.
Yeah.
But it's a very sort of British style of comic, though, isn't it? Those one-page stories. Isn't really? Is that an American thing? Do they do that?
They used to do the odd thing, but not as often as we do. Yeah, by far. Yeah.
And I think Viz is one of the last sort of UK stalwarts to keep doing that. I mean, like in the UK, for instance, like the newsstand comics, there was full of comics that were doing that, and now they're not. They're like 4 or 5 pages a story, aren't they? Like great books like the Phoenix and like the Beano and like stuff like that. But the Viz is still going strong.
It's just you in 2000 AD now. You two are the guys standing, aren't you? I think really to me.
Yeah, with the last of the people that started. I mean, we had, was it 5 at one point? 5 was doing it at the height, wasn't they?
In the office.
Yeah, 5 people sort of contributing to it, and then they dropped off one by one, and I think the last Simon went in
20 years ago.
Yeah,
wow, that long ago.
Davey went. Well, Davey went full time. Davey still draws for us, but Davey left sort of 12, 13 years ago.
Where does the time go? I don't.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Tell me about it, man.
But I genuinely, you got to subscribe to it, guys. The listeners, I keep saying it.
Yeah.
It was like one of my comics of the year last year. It will be again this year. It's the country's best comic. Genuinely, I feel that, and it's probably the best value comic on the shelf from a money point of view.
Yeah,
I always go back to rereading Viz all the time.
Yeah. Or there's if you find out where they print it, there's be a big skip.
That's amazing value for money.
Excellent,
I know. I do a lot of my weekly grocery shopping that way. Anyway,
we know an artist over here, a guy called Shaky Kane. He was going on to us about how he draws it, scans it in, and throws it away. And I was trying to get out of him his address, so I could go in his bin.
Get it
Go and
out.
fucking nick it out of his bin. Yeah. What about original art for you guys? Did you ever sell any, or do you still sell any, or?
I used to sell a little bit, but not for very many years. I buy a lot, but I don't.
We used
I
to
buy a lot of Grahams.
we used to give a lot to charity things. We gave loads and loads on the first comic relief thing, didn't we, Thorpe? And then
Because Roger Melly's in the comic, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
Now I find that really interesting because we did a podcast about that comic.
Really?
About a year ago, yeah. And the thing is that Roger Melly alludes to Jimmy Savile in that first page.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah. And it's been caught up by a couple of people on one person online that I've seen who said, "Did the BBC know earlier on?" You know, it's almost been given a bit of that. And everyone's saying, no, he's just a weirdo, isn't he? You know.
But yeah, so we've not, and as Thorpe said, we haven't got anything on paper for. I mean, it must be 10 years now since we've drawn on.
Yeah, something like that.
Right. Okay.
So,
if people catch you at a convention, I guess you do sketches and stuff. Do you?
Yeah, we would.
We'll draw we'll draw stuff, and we don't sell them either. If people want drawings, we see a lot of conventions. Artists sell them, don't they?
A lot of money, man. Yeah, these days.
We're all heart, us.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm hopefully going to be at the lake, so I'll see you there, guys. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's in Windermere, isn't it? Again.
Yeah, it is now. It's the second year there. Yeah.
Is it Bonus?
That's it. Yeah.
Bonus.
Right.
Now, obviously, you're doing the lakes. Are there any other conventions or like public appearances you have scheduled?
I don't think so. There's generally a signing in. Oh, never. Is it board? Not board. Is it board? Not board.
Waterstones.
Waterstones.
Yeah, we got an annual out again this year. I wouldn't be so cheap as to plug it.
So I hear you've got an annual coming out soon.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah.
It's called the Barber's Pole. It's a collection of the best from long enough ago that our readers will forget that they've already bought it. It's about 2 years. We've done some scientific research, and our readers forget things after 2 years. So that's when we the archives. And we usually do a couple of signings for them, 2 or 3 in London, and then 3 in the north.
Do you know where and when yet, or
not yet? No, they'll probably. I mean, there'll be one every year, unless they don't ask us back this year, at Waterston's in Leadenhall Market. But it's usually early December. It's first week in December.
Nice.
And for people from the States, this is not like an American Comics annual. This is a hardback book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is, and they're not expensive. I can't remember how much they were, but they're like
very good value.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I think it's
$12.99.
Yeah.
And you won't pay that.
Yeah.
No. Go on Amazon. It's like £6-7 or something.
Gents, you're clearly not in it for the money, are you?
What did Steve McGarry say?
And now, am I right in thinking that next year we could be seeing some top trumps cards?
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to these. Yeah.
We've actually, I don't know whether we're supposed to say that. No, we're not. There's not. Next year there won't be any top trumps released in January or early February.
Right. I'll put an appropriate beep out, so it seems like we've said something really controversial.
No. But just sort of edging bets. No, there won't be any top trumps around about middle of February next year.
I definitely won't buy any then.
They won't be featuring 30 of the most popular Viz
the lucrative early March market.
Nice.
Can you give if there were any, what the things would be? It's not strength, cleverness. It's going to be something else, isn't it?
There's superpower. There's the superpower. There's frequency.
Vulgarity. Come on, that's got to be one of them.
Yes, but blueness of language. That's it.
Yes.
Blueness of language, superpower, frequency, and what's the other one? I can't remember.
Yeah. I can see us playing it. If they did exist, I can see us playing it.
I can't remember what it would be if they were any, which there aren't.
I mean, if they do turn out, we've got Dan Butcher's birthday present sorted. That sort of.
Yep.
Good stuff.
So before we let you go, just a quick artistic question, because we've got a little bit of art talk. Who are your artistic influences? That's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, from a young kid, I used to love Mad magazines, and I used to love Don Martin and Sergio Aragonés.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But then Uderzo as an artist, I love Asterix stuff. I've got all the Asterix books, and I don't think I've read any of them. I just look at the pictures.
I can see that, man. I can see, and also Sergio, who I'm guessing you guys met when you were in California. Did you manage to meet him out there?
We met him in Kendall, I think.
Of course. No, Sergio, yeah.
Yes, I met Sergio. Met him at our very first convention, I think, that we did as sort of participants. We bumped into him. He's a great bloke, lovely bloke.
He's a really nice bloke, yeah. What about you, Simon? What about influences?
I don't know, really. I'll tell you who I really like is Martin Honeysett. He was like a Punch cartoonist.
Oh, okay, right.
He does those sort of crumpled people where their ankles are sort of hanging out of their shoes.
Oh, cool.
He did the Bert Fegg's Nasty Book, the Michael Palin.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Cool.
Martin Honeysett. Don't know. Ken Reid is. I really like Ken Reid.
He's pretty much the daddy of it, only I reckon sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. My sort of way into cartooning was probably sort of gag cartoonists, like not like Graham with Mad and strip.
Did you not read comics as a kid, though?
No. I used to read. I mean, I would have read like the Beano and the Dandy and Shiver and Shake and that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have known who'd done the drawings. That's the thing.
Well,
you'd recognise things. Yeah. So I like that. I like that one.
See, that tradition of British humour comics is what a lot of what you're doing is lampooning them.
Yeah.
But they've gone away, and you're still here with your stuff, aren't you?
Yeah. And very soon Wheel have gone as well.
No.
I used to love the VIZ simply because it was bigger. It was like tabloid, like sort of broadsheet, wasn't it? To the Dandy, tabloids.
Yeah.
And you just felt better reading it because it was a bigger comic.
And when we don't know, we were kind of trying to figure out why is it called VIZ?
Well, years ago, I think when Chris was at art college or something, they had a project where they had to make a lino cut of a word, and he did it because it was all straight lines, so he wouldn't have to cut any sort of curves on it.
Oh, okay.
So I think the original Viz on issue 1. Hang on,
Is that done with the lino cut?
I think so. I'm not finished. Hang on.
He hasn't got an issue 1 there.
There you go.
I don't think he's got an issue 1. I think he might have. He has. But we printed a facsimile of it. I think in issue 150 or something.
Okay.
We printed a facsimile of, and if you read issue 1, it's bloody awful, isn't it? I mean, it's
absolutely.
Mind you, it makes a few quid on eBay.
It does. But I mean, the first sort of.
That's the first one.
I don't think we're that good. I think we've got better.
I think.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Is in the corner there.
Yeah, wow.
I don't think it's not a lino cut on the. It's actually printed on a press, but it's.
They use those shapes.
A very poor piece of work.
Brilliant.
There you go. There is that mystery answered.
We thought it's because it rhymed with something. That's why was our biggest guess.
Because it's Latin, is it? Does it mean with respect to or something? I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that sounds very
something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris wouldn't know that.
No, he doesn't either.
So, no doubt we have converted a lot of people listening to this chat to read it.
You might have put some off, though, as well.
No, they're not the ones you let.
Yeah, they
don't listen anymore.
They don't listen to this show. So, if people want to subscribe and just sign up and just find out more about it, where can they go to find out more?
If they just go to the website, viz.co.uk, Yeah, there's a big thing that says subscribe, and you click it, and then you look in your bank, and it's taking money out of your bank probably or something.
Yeah. And it's you get a deal to start with, don't you? You get like so many months for like £3 an issue. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think they do 3 months for £1 an issue or something.
Wow.
You get a free mug and something else. Or...
You get a free mug? I never got a free mug. What's going on there?
It's a bit of bone of contention with us because once you subscribe, resubscribe for a year, you don't get a free mug. And we're always saying to the publishers, look, we should give our ongoing subscribers free. Well,
I get you.
Which will, because a lot of people do complain. They say, I resubscribed, and if I'd cancelled it and then subscribed to you, I'd get a mug. But, that's us and our publishers. That's we've got to sort that out with them.
Cool.
Yeah,
good stuff.
But this
fellas.
This has been awesome.
I've been really looking forward to this.
Bucket list ticked, and no doubt we'll have you back in the future to talk.
Do you want to do a prize that we can give away a couple of annuals when they tip up?
That's a great.
Oh, it'd be great. Would you have a question you guys could think of?
Here we go. This would be good.
No, hold on.
He's put himself on the spot.
Did you think of a question?
It'll be a botany question.
Who played Roger Melly in the cartoon?
You could do that. How about who are Fulchester United's arch rivals for the title?
Thorp.
Good shout.
Grim Thorp.
No. Well, you just answered it there. Thorp.
Did you just say that?
I thought I'd force you to ask another question.
It was in fact Grimthorpe.
Yeah, well, they also be Grimthorpe Albion or Grimthorpe City, I think, as well, weren't they?
Probably.
There's been 2 different ones. Anyway, off you go.
Well, then you answer the question that smart ass. Go on.
Yeah.
You answer.
We put him on the spot here, haven't we?
Yeah.
All right then. If it's Fulchester's scientist striker, what are his qualifications?
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
you think?
Wow, that's good.
I mean, there's no guaranteeing that they've been the same like twice running. But anyway,
oh my god!
All answers will be accepted.
Yeah.
We've got and the first couple of questions in, we'll get an annual. You right answers in, we'll get an annual.
Well, and we'll scribble some cartoons in. And if you want a tiebreaker, here's a botanical question: is a strawberry a fruit? Yes or no?
Oh, I tell you what, right?
Don't answer it.
No, I'm not going to answer it now. I'm going to find out this when we finish this interview. But yes, let us know the answers, folks, and you could win a prize. This is amazing.
That's brilliant.
An amazing interview and a prize. Thank you very much for joining us, gents.
Well,
absolutely.
We'll probably speak to you again soon. No doubt.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
How good was that?
Isn't that good?
Fantastic.
Hey?
And a prize. I got the question here again. If people didn't get it,
Yeah.
Fire the question up again.
There's a Fulchester scientist who plays for Fulchester United. What were his qualifications?
And also, is strawberry a fruit?
Yeah, that's the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Tiebreaker.
Yeah.
That could make or break her.
That was even up the way they were fucking each other up by putting out quit, and then he gave the answer just to fuck him up for a laugh. That's like us. That's all the shit we do.
Yeah.
So if you get in touch with one of the hosts on social media, or
preferably on the Slack,
on
the Slack, or you can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Just put in the subject title Viz Quiz.
Viz Quiz.
And your answer.
Yeah, I just made that up, but it sounded so good that it's like,
you just made that up.
I did. Yeah. So my whole life, as soon as I wake up, I'm just making it up as I go along.
And we'll get in touch with the winners.
Yeah. And thank you to Graham and Simon for joining us.
Cheers, chaps.
I won't be surprised if they come back in the future. Maybe we'll talk more about like, all right then, what's your we talked a little bit of digital. But come on, what's your process?
And they're going to be at the lakes.
Yeah, indeed.
So, and you heard it here that they don't charge for sketches. So don't go mad, you piss-taking bastards. But
look forward to not playing that Top Trumps game that they're not going to release.
That they're not making. That went on for a while.
Yeah. But that might not actually happen. But in all honesty, it's comics, isn't it? You never know. But thankfully, that interview happened, and we're very it just gets you excited about comics. I love an interview like that. And I cannot wait to read the new annual as well.
Yeah, me too.
So on with the rest of the show. Do we have any shout outs, gents?
Yeah, I've got a few actually. We've had a few people writing. So Paper Medicine is a solo anthology reader-graph comic series by Ben Becker. Issue 1 features the story Pigeon, about two goldfish who pilot an automaton to free their comrades from a fish tank at an optometrist's. This was sent to us by Stephen over at Third Bear Press. He's got copies in. I've read it. I read the digital copy he sent through, and it's really good. Quite an interesting story. Go to thirdbearpress.com for all your American underground comics needs if you're based in the UK. Foreign Press Comics is releasing its first creator-owned series called Sussex on the 13th of October on Kickstarter, created by Nick Good and Alvaro Molina. It's based on in 1944 about Archie, who's an SOE operative in occupied France. They describe it as a psychological thriller that explores mental health through the lens of a spy. Go back it. I've had a look at. I think if you look on the emails, guys, there's about the first 12 pages. Looks pretty impressive, pretty good. Another email we got in was from Humanoids. Morpheus is a new book from them, a post-apocalyptic sci-fi horror graphic novel from Jan Beku and Francesca Trifogli. Humanity is affected by a paralyzing virus, and one woman fights to save her daughter. The United Going Underground, it only has, I think, if you listen to this on the day of release, only got a couple more days left on Kickstarter. So going back because I know that it's pretty much ready to go, man, from the looks of things. And he's Johnny's busy doing the art stuff for it. Mechaniphobe is Raphael Zaitz. It's the new Kickstarter from Superhot Strangers Publishing. 164 pages set in a nightmare world that is constructed almost exclusively of roads. And the hero attempts to run his business surrounded by these roads. A meditation on the experience of the creator getting hit by a car as a kid, believe it or not. Kinetic, real sort of got that sort of new manga, kinetic kind of manga look to it, within some indie stylings. The Palace of Tears is by Michael Lohman. If you go back about 3 years, you'll find Michael. We interviewed him on one of our Thought Bubble specials. It's 120. I've seen some of the art, and it's outstanding, man. Really good. Michael's really good artist. 120-page full-color adaptation of a Middle Eastern folktale. Well worth getting on Kickstarter. It's doing well, not quite there, but go and get to that. Nice is next weekend from the date of recording, the 2nd and 3rd of September, 10 o'clock on the Saturday and 11 o'clock on the Sunday. Nicecon.co.uk. Some of the guests at it: Alan Davis, Barry Kitson, David Hine, John Wagner, Liam Sharp, Mark Buckingham, and Sean Phillips. So there's some fucking names at that, I tell you. It was good to see everyone. I did a bit of an impromptu drink and draw on Friday. I know you managed to get along, Dan.
Briefly, very briefly.
Just somebody said, "Oh, the wife's out. I wish she was a drink and draw tonight," and I didn't have anything to do. So I said, "All right, then let's set one up." And there's about 10 people turned up. It's a good chuckle though. It's nice. I even drew something at that one. And finally, it was great to see my old buddy and anthology. He's probably best well known for drawing the ACP anthology cover featuring Sid James, but he does dabble in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a storyboarder and art designer. Is my old collaborator Ed Triclino, and I met up with him and That Comic Smells Mighty, Mike Sadak for an Andy Murray at the weekend. A proper chuckle. So hello to those guys as well.
Which is a curry. Just in case you didn't. I sometimes I forget I have to translate Tony Esmond.
I got one earlier on this week. My mate was saying, "Oh, I've got to go home. My missus give me a load of Omar." You had Omar Sharif grief.
That's a callback, isn't it?
Oh, God.
I'm going to quick shout out to a friend of the show, Chris Imber. He's put 4 original art pieces up on eBay. One with Invincible fighting his father. You got one with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Shredder. Another one with some characters out of Mortal Kombat. Another one with Street Fighter 2. And they're all on bidding. They've got by the time you get this, you won't have much time to get them, but a day and an hour. So once you listen to this show on the Monday, see if you can get your bid in. Yeah.
Nice.
Good.
Nice.
And that's it.
Yes.
Good. For the recommends.
That was very excited from you there, Dan.
It's very final.
That's it.
But now
it's time for. Actually, no, I do have one more.
Saturday,
7th of October, Bristol Comic Expo.
Oh yes.
Pop down to that. There's it's the Double Hill Tree by Hilton, Bristol. Basically, there's tons of comic creators that are going to be there. Liam Sharp and Alan Davis. I'm really looking forward to having Alan Davis.
Busy guys.
And basically, it is adults £10, child £5, under 12's free, and there's going to be loads and loads of comics there. So it hasn't been one in Bristol for a while, actually. I mean, Lawless is a different kettle of fish. This is a straight up sort of comic expo. So make it down to there. Who knows? You might see one of us there, loitering with intent.
Naked.
That's the name of my third album. Not naked. But speaking of things that you'll be recommended, it's time to recommend some comics to you lovely people. And first off, we've all read issue 2 of Big Game.
Yeah, have we?
Fucking awesome.
And it is both awesome and we have thoughts.
Heartbreaking.
There's
and
lots
emotions.
going on. There are emotions, there are thoughts to be had, and so we're going to do it probably when there's a Three Amigos show. You know, we may talk about issue 2 and 3 at the same time. We're figuring stuff out.
But anyway, we did just talk about it for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We said we won't talk about it on the show, and then just went.
And we went, oh my god! But what about this bit?
Yeah. Well, the listeners didn't hear that bit, but but certainly if we start talking about it, we won't stop. So we want to give it the love it deserves, and you should check it out. We'd like to know what you think of it.
It's rare these days that I race to Comixology at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, and it was for that book.
God, why are you doing that?
I just didn't want it spoiled, man. Didn't want it spoiled.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm going to.
I haven't had any of it spoiled because the internet is evil. Anyway,
yeah.
But what it is good for is finding out some other recommendations. Tony, I'm going to. How many have you got this week?
2.
Right. You know the one I'm going to talk about because it's one of yours as well.
Actually, right. We're talking about that one, are we?
Well, which one do you want to talk about? Which one do you want to start with?
Well, I thought we could all go in on the one we've all read.
Yeah.
Which is that your one, Dan? Is that the one you're doing?
Yeah.
That's not the one you mean, is it, Vince? You mean the other one?
Yeah.
Which book are we talking about first?
The Hunger in the Dusk.
That is my recommendation.
Oh, right. Okay. Because I thought we were going in on the Dracula one.
No, that come later.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, spoilers, but trust me. Yeah.
So, The Hunger in the Dusk, issue 2, written by G. Willow Wilson, art by our good friend Chris Wildgoose, colours by Masasik. Is that how you say that? And letters by Simon Boland. Colour assistant Diana Souza.
Yeah. And this issue, we talked a bit about the first issue when that was about to come out.
I double dipped on that book because they had a couple of variants on that one, so I'll probably do the same with this. Actually.
In issue 2,
this is gone.
Delicate alliances between humankind and orc-kind have been forged in a desperate effort to save both civilizations. But can they last? There's a longer synopsis, but I don't want to spoil it because you lot need to be reading this book. And and this, as Dan, you can finish your emotional thought.
That's fucking great. It's so good. It's just loving it.
Yeah.
Everything about it, the pacing, the writing, the dialogue, the character. There's a one scene where it introduces the characters and just the way that's done, and it's like, I can't remember who your traveling mates are, and then the main character turns around and introduces the character and you, the reader, to these people they're traveling with.
I mean, this is issue 2, and I'm so attached to the characters in this comic already.
And I think that does also speak volumes, Tony, to how this book has been crafted and how it translates. I don't think it'd be too far-fetched to say that this book is created and heavily influenced by the boom in tabletop role-playing games and Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, of course.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
In fact, the new characters that are introduced, it very much seems like a party of characters that you would find in any sort of game like that.
All the different archetypes.
There's the different sort of archetypes, classes, the different looks. I immediately thought, oh, right, it's that type of character, it's that type of character, it's that type of character. But what this book does so successfully, Chris, obviously, his artwork is to die for. Absolutely,
this is the best he's been, I think.
Absolutely stunning, and I'll get onto him in a minute.
In a way, it's almost a spiritual sequel to me to Porcelain. There's strands of stuff there somewhere,
and you can clearly tell that he's having so much fun drawing these characters. But I just want to take a moment to just talk about G. Willow Wilson's writing in this. I haven't read too much of Wilson's work before. I mean, I've heard about it. I know she's a big thing writer, but
Miss Marvel, very well known for, isn't she? Yeah.
And this, it's just the pacing of it, the dialogue. There's a lot of different plot lines going through that you can easily follow. The characterization in every word matters when you're dealing with these sort of storylines and plot lines. How many massive fantasy epics, sci-fi epics, have we just thought, who's that? What's that? What do they want?
There's no overwriting. We were having a bit of a moan about overwriting earlier, weren't we, V? Yeah. And this isn't overwritten at all. But everything is clear and purposeful and intentional and useful. Yeah, yeah.
And not only that, you get wonderful. And I'm going to feed in like the creative teams, the whole creative team. There is dialogue and discussions, but they both feed the narrative. They allow for amazing action scenes. You get two.
Yeah, I find this really interesting, V. I know we talked about this earlier, didn't we? But the current thinking, I suppose is the way I would describe it, is that you have one major fight scene in a book. This one does two, which because and this was really interesting to me because I was texting with Christian while I was reading it, and I said, "Oh fucking hell, that thing that happens in the snow, no spoilers, like fucking outstanding, man." Do you know what I mean? And then I'm thinking, well, that's going to be the big fight event for this comic. And then there's another one at the end.
Yeah.
And it really, I mean, it's not a long comic. It's what is it, 25 pages or something? I can't remember now. But it's like there's so much meat to it, And then she's moving along both the story and the mythology all at once with it.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
The world building is frankly astonishing. And accessible. I think the problem with a lot of
I'm not a D&D fan, and I found it totally accessible.
Yeah. And even this is his own thing, isn't it, Dan? It's like it's a homebrew, to use a term, like sort of world. It's not based in any sort of existing lore.
Yeah.
It's based in existing knowledge that I think a lot of readers have of certain things. And
I tell you, it plays on those tropes of like when
exactly.
you think of like fantasy of like you'll go to Lord of the Rings and it's the orcs are the bad guys, this and that. But this sort of takes that knowingly what your preconceptions are, and then tells a story using that.
Yeah, I get that definitely.
Yeah. And it deals. There's so much going on with like cultures and perceptions of other races and just a lot of things going on, as well as. There's just some cool action and there's cool characters. There's great characters. What I like about it, and the way that Wilson sort of develops and feeds the character information without a heavy. It feels natural. That's what I loved about it. As these characters are walking along, you're getting a bit of backstory. They're talking about stuff. It's not one of those. Here I am. Here's my blunt backstory. It feels natural, which makes you love the characters even more, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah. They are likable. I mean, you get to the point where you want a couple of them to bone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do. I'm going to say openly to Christian. Yeah. I'm thinking about his characters boning, and I hope that helps him draw the rest of it.
Yeah. And we talked about it a little bit before the show. Obviously, Christian can create worlds. He's a great sort of concept designer, and I know he's worked in as concept designer as well as like comics and stuff. And we could talk about the action and like the bloodletting but for me, one of the strengths of this comic is in the dialogue. There's a lot of dialogue scenes. There's characters talking to one another, and there's a skill to be an artist that can make a lot of dialogue scenes captivating. Because otherwise, how many certain like bigger sort of company books have we read where it's like, fucking hell, they've been talking for 4 pages straight, where's all these speech bubbles? It's just sort of like, and it's just the same faces over and over just looking at each other. In this it's not. There's a real sort of, it helps that he can draw the fuck out of like some landscapes and backgrounds. And it just looks beautiful.
It's nice to see him doing covers as well.
He
didn't always get all those background covers, did he? And
no,
some of this stuff. I know there's a variant by Cliff Chiang. Shout out to that because that's lovely as well. I bought 2 versions of issue 1. Yeah.
I can see like also the porcelain design aesthetic with the
very much so. Yeah.
They're going to be beautiful book plates by themselves because I think they also tell stories. Those covers as well as being.
And the good thing about it is at least 2 of us here have got OA by him, which I'll be paying my mortgage off with very soon.
Yeah.
Vince, your profile's by Christian on Twitter, is that right?
I used to use one of his as well when he drew me as holding a baguette riding that horse. Do you remember?
Yeah, and
honestly, I said this during the week. I don't know why Christian isn't fucking massive.
Yeah,
because it's fucking brilliant his work.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go, comics, sort it out.
Imagine him doing a New Mutants book.
Oh my god, just
brilliant.
fucking forget about it. Just forget about it. One of my highlights of this book, if I'm going to speak a particular scene that stuck out to me, and we could easily, I think any of us could easily just mention the action scenes or like the drama that happens. But I think my favourite bit is when the bard is talking to the one of the main characters, and he says, "I can't," because they're with an orc
about the songs.
Oh, you can't write the songs.
Says, I can't sing any of these songs because they're all about
killing orcs.
He goes, I'm sure you know plenty of songs that don't even mention orcs. What about Homeward Through the Hills? It's got that line about the orc trader selling human bones. And he's like, they're all like that. I've got to write new songs. It's just that sort of moment, which is very.
See, to me,
real.
that's meta. That's me.
Yeah.
I think that's Christian talking about how he has to do things differently artistically.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of how I see it. I know he didn't write it, but just something about him is because the way he moves his hands. I don't know. I just kind of think it might be him.
Well, it's good in fact that the story, like these orcs and the humans they got to work together, and like generations they fucking been at war with one another.
Yeah.
And now suddenly like, oh fuck, we got to work together.
Yeah.
She's a clever person. Willow. I don't know G's first name actually. Apologies, but there's something going. She's saying something there, man.
Yeah.
Bearing I think Willow's from America, isn't she?
Mm.
I think there's a lot of like polarization and two sides to everything in that country, same as there is here. I wonder whether she's saying something with this, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See how it plays out. See what kind of messages.
Yeah. And that sort of, looking at, spending as much time with the orcs as you do with like the humans. That kind of it's a balanced book. It's very balanced.
Yeah, it's both sides.
Yeah. But what you get about it is not sort of like, oh yeah, the orcs are in this dark sort of tribal land and the humans are, these sort of mercenaries and stuff. You just see people existing. And that makes them such fascinating characters. And I think my final point is I would buy the fuck out of action figures of every single person in this fucking book. Especially I forget his name now. The orc guy.
What the couple?
Yeah,
in the woods.
Truff.
Yeah.
Is it Truff?
Yeah, Truff. Yeah.
He's fucking awesome.
You know that I'm Conway in this, don't you?
Which
I think
one's
he's based
Conway?
on the one, the old bloke, the archer.
Yeah. Greetings, dear lady. That's what he says.
Yeah, that's I use that phrase all the time.
You talk like
that's
that.
me all over that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good.
But pre-order it at your local comic book shop or online, etc. But The Hunger and the Dust, do not sleep.
But issue one's out. Go and if you can find it, get issue one. I've got a couple of variants of it. I think there's a sketch cover version as well.
Yeah.
I think I think in a time when IDW are letting go of a lot of their books, they kept this one. I can see
6
why.
volumes.
Yeah. So I had another recommend I was going to talk about, but
we both heard that. We're going to talk about that next week, aren't we, V?
Yeah.
Another one.
So and I jumped on this. So sorry, gents, if I jumped on your toes as well. But this
No,
is
that's fine.
Highest recommendation.
Good.
Yeah. So who's next?
Shall I do the one that you and I have read, V?
Okay.
So this is Universal Monsters Dracula issue 1 by Image Skybound, written by James Tynion IV, art by our buddy Martin Simmonds. We very kindly got sent through a PDF preview released on the 25th of October, so you still got a bit of time to pre-order this. The biggest names in comics resurrect the most iconic monsters is how it's used. I have to say Martin's art style in this really suits it. So the story is Dr. John Seward is a new guest in the asylum. He's one of the psychiatrists there, and this creature called Renfield is a white-faced, featureless, bug-obsessed man who spends his time talking about him. He uses that as the descriptor for this person, this creature that he talks about, and he's this sort of strange, faceless, horrible, like scurrying creature. And for this book, we're in the traditional land of Dracula as we see it a little bit through the novel, and also, which I have to admit I haven't read, but a little bit through what I know of the novel, and a little bit more through the classic movie characters,
Yeah, because it's Universal Monsters adjacent, isn't it? It's Universal Monsters taken, and you certainly see that in some of the artwork that Martin does, like referencing all that. But it's doing a lot of different things, isn't it? It's sort of it's looking at the script. And the Universal Monsters Dracula, the original one, is one of the weaker films for me. I mean, the aesthetic. Right. But apart from Dwight Fry as Renfield, is OG. He's one of my tops. I fucking love that dude.
Okay.
But this, so it was an interesting sort of. It's almost like they're treating the classic literary book and sort of telling the story.
But it's the same as the Department of Truth team, isn't it? They're using that artistic narrative style on this book, and it's a weird one because we don't get to see Dracula at the start of it, do we? You know,
no. And certainly
it's done very much through atmosphere and stuff.
And certainly Dracula is a presence. He's a presence more than an actual sort of thing through most of the story.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of wordless pages on there and stuff like that in this.
Yeah.
It plays a lot on the sort of feral as well, the sort of animalistic nature of the characters, and you get all this. You get the play like you do in a lot of the other media about this, the flies and the spiders and the wolves. The wolf in this is outstanding, man. I really did like that scene. And we get like that wordless. We get that wordless attack. Dracula is a heretical force of satanic nature almost. You know, there's this force of nature thing going on. There's some lovely use of dialogue in it. The master grows more powerful, and you get these little lines thrown in that are really good. One of my favourite bits is the shot of Renfield sitting in a chair with that sort of white face. But the features in his face are just the eyes, which are very sort of deep set and black outlined, along with almost at times a sort of cartoonish mouth. And he's wearing like a dirty shirt. And if you look at that dirty shirt, right when you see him, there's a little bit of red on it. Have you noticed that? There's like a little bit of red in almost in a brush stroke in the shirt. Just give you that little taste of the blood. Arms outstretched, explaining how the worst is yet to come. And I can feel him in my mind, in my thoughts. And you get this sort of thing going on. But there's the use of colour I really like. To know about UV, but the way he uses that lack of colour in the face, but also when you get the appearance of the wolf with the blood dripping from its eyes. Yeah, it's beautiful. Red is lovely.
Red is such, as it should be with a Dracula comic. Red is a massively powerful tool in this book, and is used both sparingly and quite a lot, but in the right kind of ways. There's a page, a wordless page, which is Dracula on the streets of London, and he's just taken the life of someone and then sort of turns into a bat and flies into the night. That's a stunning page. I love the way that Martin does panels as well. Those thick white sort of borders.
Yeah, all different. He uses so many different angles, so many different approaches, all on the same page.
The Renfield character is the one that is the most. I think he's the most striking thing about this first issue, purely because of the character design choice. You know, he's so bright in some panels. He looks like he's luminescent, and the character is sort of devoid of a nose for most of it, which they're interesting sort of character designs to make him less human. Do you know what I mean?
I often think about these things. What are they saying?
Yeah,
you know, and I think with this they've made him human in the way he gestures and speaks, but they stripped back part of it the way because he's human. You know, the whole sort of ant covered in ants eating bugs kind of things. He is and he isn't, which I think works really well.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of the Arkham Asylum about this for me.
Very much so. Yes. And certainly Arkham Asylum is definitely sort of influenced by these sort of things anyway, because for a lot of it, you're spending it. You know, the Renfield is your sort of figure point for the story. Do you know what I mean? He's the info. He's the one that going, oh, yeah, my master's doing this. He's the one giving you all the information about the evil that's coming. So when the story moves on from that, I'm very, very interested to see where it goes. It's also I love sort of the collage use that Martin does with his artwork.
Yeah.
There's lots of that going on in this. It's fascinating, his mediums.
Love a page out of this, man.
Oh god, yeah, it'd be astounding. I mean, the price of these pages will be, just forget about it.
yeah, I'm right. So you know what I mean? If there was ever, and there's a lot of overpriced art there in Martin's, ain't it? I've sat next to him at conventions when he's done commissions and stuff, and he fucking, not just the amount of paint or the amount of effort that goes into it, the thought and the style of the approach that goes into a lot of these commissions and pages he does, you know.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah, so I think it's probably best to pre-order this one, guys. So I think this is probably going to be a hot ticket For him before the Truth team get back on that book, which I understand is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tynion does a good riff on existing, because the Dracula story has been told a million times.
Well, that's the point, isn't it, of this? Yeah.
Even if it is the Universal Monsters Dracula, Universal Monsters Dracula was pretty much the play, which was the book. Do you know what I mean? There's to find a fresh take on a classic.
There's a little of the Coppola version here, isn't there? A little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In some, certainly in how
which in some reasons is my favourite Dracula movie, in some reasons isn't.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Keanu Reeves. What do you say?
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't really know this was happening until I saw a page on Martin's Instagram, and I was like, "Oh,
okay,
I need to
get on this,
get a look at this," and another thumbs up from me.
Good stuff. Has anyone got another one to go?
No.
V, you done?
I'm done. I am spent.
Okay, I'm just going to finish us off then. With Highlands Volume 1. I actually just finished before we started recording Volume 2 of this. So through Cinebook. It's available on Kindle in a month's time. Currently available as paperback through Cinebook, $7.99. The second volume has literally just come out. I got it through the post. By Philip Aymond, Aymond, who I think may be one of my top 5 BDists now.
Wow, bloody hell, that's saying something.
Man, nowhere near enough of his work online or available. It's actually a fucking crime. 48 pages. I don't know if you know, Cinebook kind of do almost 2 different sizes. A slightly smaller size, but they also do like a bigger, like the Mermaid Project, for example, is a bigger size. This is one of the bigger ones, which I think I prefer because they're almost size for size with the hardbacks that you get out of a lot of the publishers, Dugard and those sort of guys in America, in France, probably. It's a historical book, but don't let that put you off. Dates back to Scotland in the 18th century, and the lands are still in turmoil with the last violent throes of the Jacobite rebellion. It centres around a particular castle family clan, the Duke of Plaxton, around the laird and the family of this Blackwater castle. I'm ashamed to say I don't know enough about Scottish history and politics, but this does play a little bit in the relationship. God, imagine, why haven't we got comics like this over here? Somebody will tell me there is, but there's not enough of them, and this is being done by a Frenchman. But it's a pivotal time for Scotland and England at this point, and the Duke is this good man who runs this castle, and he's trying to help the lives of local people. He's not trying to heavily dive onto either side because he sees like the death that's going to eventually come to them. But his son is very much siding with the Jacobites in this, and any allegiances. There's one big party, and the daughter of the Duke is going to be married to an Englishman in order to sort of kind of seal the rift, kind of make friends and influence people. And it's not going well. And into the mix is this guy called Joseph Callender, who's a local boy whose parents had died, and the Duke had taken him in and sent him to Italy to become, of all things, an artist. And he comes back and he's employed at the castle to paint Amelia, who's the daughter. And I think I put in the Slack, I think you saw it, Dan, did you? I think you liked it. There's this like moment, and it's only it's just half a page of them looking at each other. It's like a wordless moment of glances across a party. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world. Honestly, it's just, he looks at her, she looks at him, they're across the room, she looks away, he continues to look. And it just says so much without any words, beautiful. But also this guy is surprisingly good with a sword and ends up saving Amelia's life from a kidnap attempt. And something happens in the last third where the tables are turned on him, and something happens, meaning he has to go on the run. And it leads into Volume 2. Volume 2 is very much about part of it is Culloden, the massive battle. But fucking hell, as with everything BD, every time we put our face back into BD, we're blown away, aren't we?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yes, that's amazing. It's fucking like on another level.
Oh, and this really is, man. He draws the Highlands and castles and battles with so many men, like war. It's like from a movie. You got 50 men running at 50 men in a battle, but he also does these moments of close up and this sort of relationships and like simmering heat between a man and a woman just in a look, and how they feel about painting. And I mean, it's quite adult. There's a little bit of sex in it and a lot of violence, but he does everything. There's like manipulation going on. There's this Machiavellian element to it. His women are beautiful. Often his men are rogues. I've literally gone on. I've been scouring eBay and Amazon trying to find other work by him, and there's not enough. And I'm on Glen next year. I'm definitely going to track down just stuff in French. I can get it. He's a Philippe Aymond is a Parisian artist, colorist, and writer. He was only 21 when he was hired by Jean-Claude Mézières, the co-creator of Valerian and Laureline, and he worked with Christian extensively at Dargard. He's also worked with Jean Van Ham on Lady S, which is I think there's you can just about get the first volume of that in English if you can find it. And he also worked on the book with Pierre Christian East West, which we recommended a few years ago, but nowhere near enough. But it's only $7.99. It's an album. It's 48 pages. It's the most beautiful you're going to see. Highlands Volume 1 from Cinebook. There's my next one. There you go.
Nice one.
There you go. Tons of comics
Loads
for
of
you
comics
to add to your pre-orders, your wish list. Get them now. Get your subscriptions. Just get comics and enjoy reading them.
Yeah.
And we hope you have enjoyed this week's episode. We certainly had a lot of fun talking comics this week. And thanks to Graham and Simon for joining us again.
Oh, so good.
Legends, yeah.
For our first ever VIZ Spotlight. Don't be surprised if they return in the future.
Yeah.
And certainly there is a prize to be won. So answer the question and send your answers. Get your answers in either on the Slack community, which is a wonderful community of people that listen to this show. If you want to join it, there's loads of different channels and groups on there, from art threads to keep the podcast discussion.
The pound shop's been going well.
Yeah,
again,
pound shops where you can pick up cheap. There's a
Slain art challenge going on in the draw off. So if you fancy, with Slain being I think 40 years old, isn't it? This month, go and draw Slain, drop it in there. There's some really lovely stuff going on there.
It's full of positivity, comics positivity, and people just sharing their thoughts and love of comics. So it's very open. Everyone's welcome. Just get in touch with us and join the groups. And so leave your answers there, or there's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can also email us, awesomecomicspod@gmail.com, and you can find us on social media at the Awesome Pod. And the social networks are so weird now. I think if we just say at the Awesome Pod, that's where you can find us.
Yeah. If you Google us, it'll pop up.
Yeah, and you'll just contact one of us through the email, and we'll add you to the Slack.
Yeah, and thank you for listening. Whether it's on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, leave a nice review. It helps get the word out about the show, the algorithm, and all that. We have quite a few listeners that listen on Apple, so thank you very much. Thank you to anyone that listens to this show. Actually, we really, really appreciate it. Wherever you are in the world. We will endeavour to inform as well as make you laugh and talk about comics. And if you listen to us on any other networks like Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife, what other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network doing a Gillian Tailforth.
How long have you been waiting to say that?
About hours.
Yeah, I thought so.
It was going to be peekapoo and a quick Dutch sandwich.
Oh my God. Either stunned me into silence. But until next week's show, where can people find us online, etc., Tony?
Neverhidanything.com, or you can find me in 2 weeks' time, or about a week and a half's time, at Baltimore Comic Con or SPX. We shall be there with the crew.
Nice, Dan.
You can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com. That's really heating up last couple of pages.
Oh, mate.
God, yeah.
Mate, you texted me at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
on Friday, because you were
had
finishing
to get that page
off.
done.
Yeah,
it was a fucking struggle, but I got it done.
Absolute mad.
We never sleep, do we, geezer?
No.
We don't sleep.
No. Sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, you won't really if we're going to be pedantic. Anyway,
Right, scientist,
Mr. Logic.
Hey, it's all that logic. It's all that science talk. And you can find me on social media at Chester Diablo. Thank you very much for listening, everyone, and join us next week for more comics talk. And there's just lots of exciting stuff to look forward to at the moment with comics, and that's just awesome. And so awesome, that's why we put it in the name. No, it wasn't. It was just a word I liked.
You liked that word.
I did like that word. And do you know what? All these episodes later, I'm still a fan.
Still like it, don't you?
I still like it. You know, I'm not burdened with it.
We didn't go with my idea saying it, the Boobs comic podcast.
Yeah,
But I still do like that word too.
I don't think we had much input, was it? It was just like...
No, it was already formed when you came to us, wasn't it? Yeah, you'd already got the idea.
Yeah. I'm a mad dictator that runs this show with an iron fist.
Part of that word.
Anyway, join us next week for more comics talk. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you're happy, healthy, reading loads of comics, and you're just enjoying making them and reading them. Because we're
Gillian Tailforth.
We're certainly... You be quiet, you.
Right.
You say
I think anyone's going to get a reference, are they?
No. Well, it's not like Tony to use a reference that no one's going to get.
Yeah.
I don't think it's only. I don't think it's true. I didn't think she did. She did what they said.
Really?
You told me it was. I said no, it won't be true. She's a lady.
Join us next week for more comics chat. We love you very much, Dan. You do, don't you, Dan?
Yes, of course I do.
Tony, you love the listeners, don't you?
No.
Just say it. Well, say it, man. Why won't you say it? Why don't you just be honest?
Well, like you were about Gillian Tailforth. That was her fault.
Don't you fucking bring me into this. Don't you fucking bring me into this or gaslight me, motherfucker. Anyway, right.
Get out my pub.
So we're in a lay-by. They pulled over because they were tired.
Get out of my pub. Anyway, we've all gone mad. And until next week, from Dan, Tony, and myself, read loads of comics. Keep making brilliant comics because we want to read them. And as always, what should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
See ya.
See ya.